number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 321, Sports Card Nation. It's Friday if you're listening to us on show release day. It's an annual tradition, our show today. It's the third annual Football Card Hall of Fame, and started by Ray Fonio, and his council includes Bart, Bartholomew, and Scott Nathan. All three will be on the show. We do this every year. We're going to do it a little bit differently this year because we are doing double episodes. Today's show is really just going to focus on the 45 cards up for induction. There's 45 cards. You can vote for your favorite 10, and the top 5 vote getters get in. It used to be 10, it's now 5. So the class will be smaller, so your vote counts even more. So even more important to vote. The where you can vote will be in the show links. We'll talk about it on the show as well, but if you miss it, go to the episode notes and check it out there. This episode, part 1, is going to be strictly the 45 card candidates, going through those and, weighing in on those. Our opinions, any prior history on the election board, what kind of percentage did they get, first time on the ballot, and that sort of thing. So we're gonna really break it down. It's gonna be a little bit of a longer episode today, so I apologize in advance if you were getting used to the shorter length. Next week we'll be back to shorter length. Next week the guys will be back and we'll be talking more about the entity itself, the Football Card Hall of Fame, and what it entails, some of the rule changes, how it started, that sort of thing. If you're listening to this on show release day, you have 2 weeks to get in your vote, make it count. So get in there and get your vote for your favorite 10, and maybe some of them will be newly inducted into the Football Card Hall of Fame. I talked last week about a pseudo sponsor we have with Magic Mind. It's a little energy shot, mental clarity, nootropic thing. Not a big user or believer in those, but this one's really got me reconsidering my stance. I take one every morning before school and even on the weekends, and it just really, it's a little pep, seems to get me more focused, more kind of locked in. I don't know if it's mind over matter. I don't think so, but seems to be doing the trick, really enjoying it. If you want to try it yourself, there is a promotional discount code link in the show notes, so check that out along with your voting for the Football Card Hall of Fame. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with Bart, Ray, and Scott.
Iron Sports Cards is your number one source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Welcome to Sports Card Nation. I have 3 gentlemen joining me tonight for a show that's become now a tradition. It's now the 3rd annual Football Card Hall of Fame, about to get ready for the 3rd annual class. And in order from top to bottom, I guess I'll go. We have Ray from Philly, Bart's Cards, and Scott from Scotty Tradition. And again, this is the 3rd year we've done this. Number one, let's start off with, kudos to you guys for keeping this thing going. And I know each year you're getting more interaction and voting from hobbyists and probably sports fans alike. And here you are in your 3rd year. It's getting bigger each year. And We're going to go through. You got 45 cards on the candidate list. 10 are going to be make it in this year, and 35 will be on the outside looking in. We're going to go through every one of them. I will kind of just introduce the cards and let you guys kind of interject, your thoughts and whether the card is a first-time appearance, second, third, whatever the case may be, your personal thoughts and opinions, which are obviously valid. And I'll kind of throw in a few thoughts, and we'll go through the list of these 45 cards, guys. But any kind of opening comments before we get into this list?
Well, there was a rule change. It's not 10 cards getting in this year; it's 5.
Oh, all right.
It's gonna be tougher.
Still get to vote.
Let me ask.
Just get 5 in.
Okay, so you vote for 10, and the top 5 vote getters get in. I kind of like that. It's gonna be tough now. Now I might have to politic for 2 cards that are out on the top of my head. But I'll ask the question now. I know we're going to talk a little bit more even after we get through the list here. The main reason why you guys decided to do that?
I'll take that one. Football just doesn't have the depth that you see in baseball. So we would start watering down the classes pretty quickly. Earlier on than they should get in type of thing. We only have 1 pre-war set. We don't have the multiple issues once post-war happens, and we don't have the big iconic food issues and things like that. We've got some nuanced ones here and there, but they just don't have the carrying power that baseball does. So there's just not a volume there. So 10 each in the first 2 years made sense, just because you got to send that, get those foundational classes in there. And then it's just, all right, now let's have them duke it out.
Yeah, I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's valid. And, I think you appreciate it more too when you only got, I hope people take their vote serious in who they, and I'm sure they do for the most part. I mean, like I said, I have 2 homer picks that will show up here. I hope they make the 5. I thought they had a better shot when it was 10. Now it's going to be even tougher. But
tougher, yeah.
We'll go through these. Not every card will appear on the screen for those watching this in the video format. If you're listening in the audio format, you won't notice any difference. But we're going to talk about kind of each card. I kind of will bracket cards that are from the same set. We'll kind of can talk about them as a group just for time purposes. So let's start with the oldest candidate card appearing on this year's list, which is the 1888 N162 Harry Beecher. Just some thoughts kicking it off with the oldest card here on the candidate.
This was a card that we did not have on our first ballot, first time around. We added it on our second ballot. We just felt like it was an important card to highlight. Pretty much the first football card, even though he's holding what looks to be a round ball. The football looked a little different back in the day. College football was a huge deal earlier on than pro football was. We just thought that it was a necessary card to be on this. And I think it came pretty close last year to getting in the top 10, if I recall.
It was the first highest card, right outside of the top 10. It was like 11.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of this whole process is, to generate the interest, but, educate a little bit, right? Shouldn't miss opportunities for that when we're discussing the hobby and doing activities and things like that. So, we had 1 pre-war set in 1935, and this sucker is 47 years prior to that. So kind of a big piece to, educate folks on the history of the game itself, as well as the hobby and how it came about.
Being obviously one of the early cards, I mean, you're talking, before the turn of the century. You think that plays a factor in whether this might be an inductee or not, or does it hurt it because maybe people of today's generation aren't as familiar with the card that's now, 137 years old?
I think both. I think it's evolved, right? So that first ballot, and Scotty was the big promoter for this one, and properly so. I think it just needed to get that education out there, and so it didn't get as much love as it could have. But 1888 still speaks volumes, right? Like it still catches people's attention. But that first year probably didn't get as much as it could have. The first year it was on the ballot last year, but now, as we've pushed it out there, and hopefully it's trudged up, some thoughts about the hobby and how old and the vintage itself. This year it probably should see a nice bump, I would think, just based on that and that exposure.
Yeah, I think it has a great chance to get in this year. And I think that it was the first one out last year. And if you look at the results so far in general, they've been a little more vintage skewed for whatever reason. So I do think there's a pretty big vintage community that votes. So, I mean, that the Tom Brady cards are, very expensive, very popular in the hobby, but they're still sitting there, not in the Hall of Fame. So I think it's a vintage skew to our vote anyways.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I like that, right? You want to, we wouldn't have Tom Brady cards if it wasn't for these guys that, are the bridge to the football that we have today. Even though it's a really a completely different game, it's the forefathers, right? It's like presidents. You have to have those originals to have the modern days and the currents. I think cards, much like life, sort of reflect that as well. So it'll be interesting to see where it finishes. For those listening, I will have the link to vote in the episode notes. So if you're wondering, I'll also talk about that, at the back end as well. But in case you don't if you miss it, audioly, it's there visually. If you click on it, it'll take you right there. And so get out and vote. Second card going in chronological order, guys. The 1935 National Chickle Clark Hinkle. You guys kind of interject your thoughts here.
Yeah, well, this is one of my guys, if you will. He's a former Packer. So played both ways back in the day, offense and defense. He was Bronco Nagurski's main nemesis during the time that they played. And, 35 Chickle is just one of those premier vintage sets of football that, everybody should have at least one Chickle card, in my opinion. And Clark Hinkle's kind of that, one of those next big players in that set now that Bronco Nagurski's already in. So that was our thought process there.
Yeah, he's one that kind of gets forgotten about, but if you look him up and everything, he absolutely deserves to be in a lot of conversations about top players. And then 35 National Chickle is just the foundational set for us. So as we got Nagurski out of the way and Rockney, he's kind of the next on the list for competing. Probably not going to make a top 5 because it's getting lean now, but I would expect to see him somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, I would think.
All right, guys, we'll go just for time. We'll go with the next 3 here. This is the 1948 Leaf set. I know there's, you can debate 48, 49, but right now, officially 1948 Leaf. You got the Sid Luckman, Bobby Lane, and Chuck Bednarik. All 3, frankly, worthy as players and as cards. I'm a fan of 48 Leaf, baseball and football alike. So, I don't think there's not a bad vote with the 3 that if you're watching that video that you see on the screen. I'll let you guys talk, but I'll ask a question too. Does having multiple cards from a set sort of, it's like sometimes a third-party candidate kind of hurts the other 2 mainstream. Do you think that works like that here in the Hall of Fame football card process as well, or not necessarily?
I think it will in this case. Hopefully not too much. I definitely think one of these should make it in because we kind of got to keep, having opportunities for other cards. So certain cards got to get in certain years. I think 2 out of the 3 ought to be in there, but they probably will split votes. It's going to, pull on the heartstrings a little bit of your fan base, right? Like Ray's going to be biased and Concrete Charlie's going to be in there all day. But, you could have a Midwesterner, from the Lions fan or something, putting Bobby Lane, whomever. So we'll see how this one goes. Definitely like to see at least one of these get in the top 5 here.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Bart said. If I had to guess, I think Concrete Charlie might have the best chance of reaching that top 5. It's a pretty popular card in the hobby, even though it's they don't tend to come up a lot and they're pretty pricey. And remember the 48 leaf Sammy Ball, I want to say got in last year. So that's no longer on the list. There's just so many great cards from this set.
Yeah, I love this set. I will say this, without saying who I voted, I did vote for one of these 3 cards. So I don't want to politic or lobby, but I'll just say my vote's in one of these 3. And I will say this, I wanted to vote for 2 of the 3, but what I kept changing and unchecking one, and so I voted for 1. So that's one of the reasons I asked that question too, Bart, was, because I didn't want to vote for too many, even though it's an iconic and great set. I sort of felt like I can't vote for all 3. I tried to get 2 of them, then I had to uncheck someone else, and then I'm like, no, I can't not vote for that. And that was before I even realized it was only 5. That was when I thought 10 were
that's part of the challenge of that ballot. We try to front load, at least let everybody know there's 45 cards there, and with your 10 votes, you can start clicking boxes pretty fast, especially in chronological order there. And then all of a sudden you realize, you can be in the 70s, 80s and be like, man, I haven't even seen half the cards yet.
That happened last year.
Here. So yeah, that'll challenge the voters, and we love every bit of that.
Yeah, and full transparency, I had a few more modern day cards, if you will, checked, and then I had to play with the formula, and a couple of those modern day cards I had voted, and then I had to uncheck. So, at least in my book, they have to wait another year. They might get in because enough other people voted for. But I'm a vintage guy too, and a history guy, so I didn't want to inspire. You look at it this way: the newer cards will have more opportunities potentially, say. So, and we'll get into some of the parameters of how cards stay on the list or don't. Once we get through here. All right, let's go with the next 2 guys. I didn't put up a picture, but you got the 1950 both Bowmans. You got Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch and Y.A. Tittle. Again, 2 great cards. No one would argue, either one of them to not get in. But your thoughts on those 2?
Go ahead, Bart.
I think they're great cards. I think Doak Walker's in that mix too, from 1950 Bowman, fresh on the ballot. So we got 3 of those. A well-known set. It mirrors its baseball, so it's even just like 48 leaf. It's very well known because it's recognizable across the board. I don't necessarily see any of those getting in this year. I definitely think that they will have solid performances and stay on the ballot. They won't be the bottom 5 and get booted off by any means, but that's probably, good candidates for splitting votes. 1950 Bowman will get some love, but who to give it to out of those 3? I just don't see one of them carrying strong enough to make top 5.
Yeah, obviously it's an awesome set. It's actually my favorite vintage football set because it just shows the portrait of the player and no name, no nothing. It's just it's almost like little works of art. The Otto Graham already made it in, so that's not on the list anymore. But I think the next one that has the best shot would probably be the Tittle. That's just me, but I don't know that he has a chance to make it in this year with just 5. But maybe in the next couple of years, I could easily see that Tittle sneaking in. It's a pretty popular card in the hobby.
Yeah, my bad. Thank you for correcting me. Doak Walker's on here, but for some reason, I put him down, someone between them. So, 3 from 1950 Bowman, and obviously Doak Walker, a viable candidate. As well. That was just not writing stuff down in exact order. That's what happened when you get old, like myself. So I'll chalk it up to senility. But there you go. 3 from that set. We go to 1951 Bowman, and actually, nope. We go to We stay in 1950. With the Joe Paterno Topps Felt. Really kind of cool set from back in the day. Not too many people don't know Joe Paterno. Didn't really have much of an NFL career, and known more as obviously a coach than a player. But I know it didn't end great there and all that stuff, but still still an icon of football. Obviously he's representing their Brown University as a quarterback and co-captain. Your thoughts on the Joe Pa felt?
Yeah, these cards are kind of cool. They're just they're very small, so they kind of were an odd shape. They're only like 2 inches long, I think I'm gonna say. So they didn't really hold that well. The felt backs are just kind of one of those unique sets that maybe I know a lot of people know Joe Paterno, but I don't know that a lot of people know about the 50 felt back set. So this is like another one of those good educational opportunities that we wanted to bring to the hobby and putting this card in there. And it's a pretty sought after card too. I think this card's in the top 250 PSA set registry. So definitely some people think it's a pretty big card in them.
Yeah, and this whole set is, can be considered a rarity. So I have definitely opportunity for education there. But if you know about this set and or you know about Joe Paterno, you know this card, and this is the one that is definitely sought after leaps and bounds beyond the others in this set.
Yeah, and I can tell you as a dealer who does a lot of shows, we go to the National, you don't see many from this set period, let alone Paterno specifically. So like you guys said, definitely a scarce I call it a card, right? A felt, but you don't see these aren't very prevalent. Is that good or bad when it comes to the voting, or you think that really doesn't factor?
I think that would be tied to the knowledge base of the voter, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The non-well-known ones won't get much love from, I don't want to say novice voter, but you're not, deeply inculcated into the football hobby collectors there. But your purists and the ones that have been doing all the things and at the shows and all those things for years and years, specifically to football, they'll recognize it in that scarcity. Probably trudges up a vote much quicker.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys. 1951 Bowman has two candidates this year. We got Norm Van Brocklin and a guy. There you go. I won't keep it on the screen because it's bigger than the other ones. But Thomas Landry, a.k.a. Tom Landry, of Cowboy Hat fame as the legendary Cowboys coach. I don't know. I'll start off by saying this. I know he's been on the ballot before. If you know I'll put you a little bit on the spot. If you know off the top of your head how he's fared in past years, I'm a little surprised this card. Whether I'm not a Cowboys fan, I know Ray's definitely not. Actually, none of us are. But I mean, he's an icon of football, and whether we like it or not, there are a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans. I'm kind of surprised this card hasn't got in. Now, obviously, he's representing the Giants during his playing days, but known more as again that Cowboys.
He finished in the top 20 last year. He finished 19th.
Okay,
so.
You think they moves up? Again, only the top 5 are getting in, but you think he moves up from 19 out of these 45 cards?
I would think so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because the first 10 got in, right? So he's ninth best vote getter that wasn't in. Still got him break into the top 5 now. But yeah, he's had some strong performances, so he's getting close for sure. Big fan of 51 Bowman as well. Also mention the Van Brocklin, along with that Doak Walker, in these older sets, collecting and the way of collecting at the time trudged up a lot of popularity. So you have the Doak Walker and the Norm Van Brocklin, both number 1 cards in those sets. So for those set collectors, which is, all you had, because there was only one thing to get after, that made a big difference in what was sought after condition-wise, et cetera, right? Bouncing around in shoeboxes, number 1 card, took some damages. Pretty cool that they were popular players at the time, but that kind of added to the problem set.
Yeah, a lot of rubber band marks on those number 1 cards as well, and that's a great point, and that's why they're even an Andy Pafko, who's not a great player on the baseball side, first tops card ever with the 52. That card's in a decent shape. That's a 4-figure card, and it's not for his playing prowess. It's just the significance of being that number 1 card in the set. All right, guys, kind of going on 52 Bowman Large. Frank Gifford, another iconic name of football, who stayed, stayed in the limelight while being married to Kathy Lee and being an analyst himself. And so I had a long football career in that facet. Kind of thoughts on the 52 large Gifford.
I just think the 50, of course, 52 large and small were two options at the time, came in large and small. Large tends to be a little more sought after, although there are some smalls that are a little more scarce in the population and causes them to go for more. But yeah, just a great card. Gifford was a great player in the day. Love the color on these early Bowman cards. It's a great representative from that set, I think. It's funny, you you had mentioned that Chuck Bednarik card earlier, and there's that famous play where Bednarik is standing over Frank Gifford after he made that hit and knocked Gifford out for a year and a half after that hit. It's fitting that those two are have a chance to possibly get in on the same ballot, if at least not this year, the next couple.
Yeah, 52.
All right, good. Yeah, go ahead.
Super popular, tough to be centered. The color is awesome, and then Gifford always helps to play in the large media markets. So a New York Giants guy, big popular area at the time, right? Not as much nowadays, but.
Moving on, only 154 Bowman. George Blanda, a guy I've always felt like very underrated as a player. I don't think played a long time, multi-positional, doesn't get enough credit. Not a household name in the same sense as certain other legends. So I always felt like I wasn't obviously a Raiders fan or anything like that, but a guy that really, probably doesn't get enough credit when you look at what he did and some of the records he either still holds or held at one point or another. Kind of thoughts here. You kind of agree maybe being an underrated player could also hurt, his card candidacy.
One thing, I feel old because I saw Blanda play.
Yeah.
I saw him with the Oakland
here.
Raiders in the 70s. I'm like, oh my God.
He played a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played 6 years. Not a strong rookie class in 54, so that doesn't help. 54 Bowman is not the most colorful set. I really like the set, but it just doesn't carry the color at some of the other issues right before and after it. So the set itself doesn't get a ton of love, but I think just bouncing around teams a little bit, maybe too much, didn't help him as well. AFL wasn't quite as strong back then either, so that doesn't help. So a little bit of this and that kind of diluting his popularity, but definitely somebody that needs to be a part of the football story and a football hobby story.
What's that? Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say Blanda is new to the list this year, so I don't know if it's someone we're expecting to be in the top 5 necessarily, but it's someone that we wanted to put out there as potential.
Good point.
Quick funny story. I'll make this short. I had a debate with a guy I was set up near another dealer, and I don't even know how it came up, but we started talking about Blanda, and I went on my he's underrated, and he took the opposite stance, and he's like, John, he's overrated. He compiled a lot of stats over a lot of years, and I'm like, you're making my point for me. It's hard to play NFL football for that long. It's a different sport than baseball, where you can kind of hang around or be a DH, right? So I'm like, don't hold, maybe in baseball I can say someone compiled stats and kind of just played 5 or 7 more years, just being DH. And that argument really doesn't work too much in football. So just a funny debate I remember having a year or so back with a dealer friend of mine, and who thought we took opposite arguments. I said underrated, he said overrated, but I still believe he's underrated. All right, guys. Another slide I'll put up on. Oh, wrong one. We're gonna get to that one. I think it's this one. Yep. 1955 Topps All-Americans. We see the Don Hudson and the Four Horsemen. Four Horsemen card, an iconic card. Well, they're every card on this list is iconic in its own way. But the Four Horsemen itself, that backfield is just the stuff of legends, and we see the old footage and the narration. This card I thought I thought it had been gotten in already. So a little bit surprised to see it here. I don't know, Ray, if you can speak to
Yeah.
how it's fared in
Well, there
years
was a
past.
55 tops All-American Jim Thorpe that got in last year,
Yeah.
but this Don Hudson finished 13th last year, so he was
He's on the
he was
cusp.
right outside the top 10 last year. It's a popular set, this 55 tops All-American.
Oh yeah, this is one of my, and these go for some. Obviously, the stars are gonna, like any set, are gonna bring more money. But I'm surprised. I pick up some of these in like collection buys, and I'm surprised that sometimes for what little they go for. I love them, and I'm not trying to drive. I want to still buy them at pretty affordable prices, but it does surprise me sometimes what these things will go for. But I love the set as a whole, and it is popular. I sell quite a bit of the 55 tops elements. But Scott, Bart, if you want to, some thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the Hudson. Amongst Packer collectors, it's definitely a sought after card, and obviously you got the Alabama background too, which is not necessarily a small community of fans. College logos on the cards and the colors, make these super popular. It definitely is the top heavy cards in this set do go for quite a bit of money. The Thorpe and the Hudson, and then this all Four Horsemen card. I could easily see one of these cards getting into the top 5 this year. For sure in the top 5 this year or next year.
Yeah, I think the Hudson should be in this go around. I definitely think it's deserving the top 5. Four Horsemen is represented real well on the ballots as well, and kind of said it before in a couple of other cards, but early football, not in the same way as baseball for sure. So very distinct to us. The college football mattered significantly to all the things. If they didn't have a name coming into the NFL, it was much harder to do. But if they had a name coming in, they didn't have to do quite as much into the NFL to be very, very popular. But Four Horsemen's got tons of nostalgia, and then Don Hudson obviously did it in college and very much so in the pros as well. And was that great receiver of his day and multiple decades after, until we got a couple of more in the modern passing. So big time player, big time card.
And like you said, Ray finished 13th last year. Had it stayed at 10, he might be sort of a shoe-in, right? Now it'll be interesting.
It'll be right around the line now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think you got a vote from Scott without knowing 100%.
We don't vote.
We don't vote. But,
that's it. Well, you can listen.
I didn't vote either. Or else I'd be voting for Concrete Charlie.
Yeah.
I can't say no.
All right, guys. Let's go to the next on the list here. 57 tops. 2 candidates from that set. Paul Hornung and Dick Night Train Lane on this list. I'll have at it with these 2 cards.
Yeah, the Golden Boy, Paul Hornung, a great card from the 57 set, and then we got some. A defensive stalwart in Dick Night Train Lane, probably the best name other than you'll see Mean Joe Green coming up down the line. But just a great set. You get the portrait on one side, the action shot on the other. Bart Starr, I think, made it in the first time around. So, and Unitas made it in as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So we're looking for that next card from 57 to make it in. Hornung has a great chance. I think he held the single season scoring record for many, many years until it was broken by LaDainian Tomlinson, who you might see later on this list as well. So either one of these are great cards, but not sure I see any one of them getting in this year, but just something to think about.
57's a very popular set, very easily recognizable and iconic for us. Hornung will be a little higher on the list in results. Dick Night Train Lane is new on the ballots, and so we'll see what his popularity trudges up. But Hornung will stay on the ballot, and we'll see if he can continue to work his way up in some subsequent years and get in a year or 2 probably, but I don't see it this year.
All right, we skip ahead 5 years to the next group of 3 from the 62 top set. To me, all worthy. I'll put them on the screen here. You got Iron Mike Ditka, You got Ernie Davis of Syracuse lore, and unfortunately, his NFL career never happened. Unfortunately, due to leukemia. If you have never seen The Express, it's a great movie that does depict much of it pretty accurately, not 100%, but for the most part. And Fran Tarkenton, one of the greatest, scrambling quarterbacks, one of the first ones. I'm not, here's one of my homer picks, that card in the middle, Ernie Davis. I own a few of these. These are, as you guys all know, and most people who are vintage football card collectors, very condition sensitive set. A lot of star power as well. Ernie Davis will get my vote every year he's on the ballot, and hopefully one day or 1 year I don't have to vote for him anymore, right? Because this card is in there, and it's his only. He has a new what do they call them? The new cards from '61 as a Syracuse player, but this is as the number one draft pick of the Browns, and unfortunately passed away during training camp. So never saw an official game, but that would have been one heck of a backfield. Ernie Davis and Jim Brown in the same backfield. Both Syracuse legends. And for those that don't know, it used to be the Carrier Dome here in Syracuse. Now the JMA Wireless Dome is also known. If you're inside it, you'll see the field is labeled Ernie Davis Legends Field. So homer pick, but definitely worthy. And it's a card I love, right? And that's why we vote. It's what we feel in our hearts should be in. So there's my little homer rant, but I'll stop talking and I'll let you guys not homer rant maybe on these three particular candidates.
Yeah, like you said, we skipped 5 years ahead there. We had a couple of ugly years worth of cards, to be honest, and not a lot of star power outside of the ones that were already established, but not rookie star power coming along.
Right.
Stars that we did have, but 62 came along and changed it up, went horizontal on it with the black borders and stuff. So a couple of stars here. I would say the Ditka is the strongest of the three as far as candidacy and likelihood. But we'll see. I'm all probably tick up a little bit on the list.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite sets too, guys, and it's not because of the Ernie. I mean, that doesn't hurt. I just love the look of these, the horizontal cards, the black borders, and then you got the inset black and white photos with the nice little name box. I remembered even as a young kid, kind of seeing these for the first time and really, digging the design. And then getting a little bit older, a little more money, starting to pick these up and buy some of these. And to this day, anytime I can pick up an Ernie Davis, even any night I go on eBay, it goes in my search terms, and I see if there's any that are going for too cheap that I can't let go. So yeah, I own a few of those. Like I said, there's the homer in me, but all three obviously worthy, but with only 5 getting in, I think it's a super safe bet. These are all going to get in, and maybe none. You have to see where the chips fall here. All right, guys, moving on to 63. We have the 63 tops, Bob Lilly and Ray Nitschke. We have the 63 Fleer, Lance Allworth, and Len Dawson. We'll kind of group those 4. I know they're 2 different sets, but those 4 cards. I don't have a graphic here, but kind of thoughts on those 2 sets and 4 candidates.
Yeah, I can take the 63 tops, the Nitschke and the Bob Lilly. I think what you're seeing on this year's ballot is definitely a focus on some defensive players. There's quite a bit of them, so if you're a fan of defense like I am, you can see some of these players and make sure you vote for them if you like them. 63 is kind of a cool set because it's almost like the first color match. They're like vintage color match cards. So like the Nitschke's got some yellow and green in it. Then the Lily's got some like cowboy type colors in it. So I just think they're very cool cards, very condition sensitive. Centering is a big deal for these. And Nitschke was the heart and soul of the Packers defense in the 60s. and Bob Lilly's was literally named Mr. Cowboy. So you got two pretty great candidates right there to get in the next couple, if not this time around, the next couple of years.
Yeah, only got to color match some of the teams, right? The Niners got stuck with blue and yellow borders and stuff, so we didn't get no love on that one. 63 Fleer, you got the Len Dawson and the Allworth, two great cards. Fleer of the day was the AFL issue, so not necessarily as popular, but those are two big icons there. Do expect them. They should do well. Dawson will do a little bit better. Allworth, we had to reintroduce to the ballot this year. It was one of the bottom feeders of the first year and got taken off. But as we were finding cards to put onto the ballot, we were having a hard time not, finding cards that needed to be on the list above that Allworth. So after sitting out for a year, we reintroduced it.
Hi guys, going now. Speaking of gaps, we go from 63 all the way to now we're hitting the 70s. Again, this is going to be a homer slide for me. I put two on the slide. You got 1970 Topps O.J. Simpson and the 71 Topps Mean Joe Green. This is, that bottom card, that Mean Joe. Those that know me know I'm a huge Steeler fan. And Mean Joe Green's my guy. Like that's the reason I'm a Steeler fan. That Coke commercial, that kid in the Coke commercial is the same age as me then, and he's still alive, so he's the same age as me now. And if you saw a picture of me during that year, we looked very similar. And so I saw myself in that kid. I grew up in New York City. I did not like the Giants and Jets, and so I went and joined these Pittsburgh Steelers fan club. Took a lot of abuse from my New York City friends that said, how can you be a Steeler fan? You can't even go to games. And I'm like, I don't like the Jets or Giants. So, and Mean Joe Green is my new favorite player. And so the rest is history. That's another card. I mentioned Ernie Davis. Mean Joe Green's another card. I have multiple copies and I still look for more if a deal's to be had. So I will tell you, I voted for one of these two cards and I didn't vote for the other one. But we all know the O.J. Simpson and all the backstory there. Recently passed away. Well, we can't argue about O.J. Simpson, the football player, right? The greatness that he was, and even post football, did TV work and movies and analysis, and so you're voting on the card. So like I talk about with Ty Cobb wasn't the nicest guy in the world, but he was a great player, right? O.J. Simpson was a great football player, and this is his rookie card. So I'll let you guys speak to these two cards, but even Bart specifically with O.J., I know he played eventually with the Niners. Like, what are your, how much of what happened, the last chapter, if you will, in his life, affects maybe card voting here, or maybe not so much.
Yeah, for this one, like you said, we skipped 7 years, but that's only because we got some really good ones already in with the Namath, the Buckus, and the Sayer. So we didn't skip bad years of cardboard per se, but some good folks got in. You can't tell the story of the 70s without these two guys. OJ's the best card in that 1970 set, and Mean Joe's probably arguably the number 2 card, and Bradshaw's already in, I think.
See, that's a travesty. The Bradshaw is from Steel.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I know. Mean Joe Green, like the Steelers, he changed the whole trajectory of that franchise. And he's my dude, so I'm gonna be a fanboy here. Vote Mean Joe. Vote for me.
They were known as the Steel Curtain for a reason, and he was that.
Yeah.
I think the OJ and whatever player, has things that happen and get notoriety for after their careers. That's always going to be in the eye of the beholder. I knew enough about the player and his background and history and all of those things before a lot of those things. Well, obviously the one was pretty early, but before the continuance of some of those things in his afterlife, I guess. So it doesn't sway me as much to my popularity of the football player. But I'm sure that's not the case for a lot of folks. So we'll see. You get the opportunity to vote or not vote for those. And we like to see how that story plays out. That's part of the fun of this process.
Scott, Ray, anything or
No, I mean OJ did move up a little bit. He was 24th last year, so yeah. I think eventually that card's going to get in. I mean, it's about the card, it's about the player, so
you can't tell the story of the 70s without those two guys.
Absolutely not. I mean, one of the greatest running backs of all time. We were like me and Scott were talking about like how Barkley this year got 2,000 yards, but OJ did it in 14 games. Man, I mean that's just unbelievable. In a much more tougher game too back then.
And you should have seen him hurdling suitcases at the airport
with the Hertz commercials.
Someone's at my door. I've got to get that. Be right back.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
All right, guys. I don't have a slide, but the next card, again, going in chronological order. Another underrated player, the 1977 Topps, Steve Largent. You don't have to be a Seahawks fan, to know how great Steve Largent is. Wasn't necessarily the fastest guy on the field. It just seemed like he was always open and catching, 7 to 9 passes a game, and sometimes more. And, I don't think, again, like I mentioned Blanda before and other guys, he's one of those guys, who doesn't get enough credit. Like he was the guy, at least in the era, and then Jerry Rice kind of came along. I think people forgot about Largent because Rice was so great. But you look at the stats and the numbers, and he's really should get a lot more credit than he does. I'll let you guys kind of chime in here.
Yeah, Largent is definitely deserving to be on this list for the accolades he put up as a receiver. I am curious, just because he did play up in Seattle, Washington. It kind of a niche place. He was a niche player up there. I mean, obviously extremely good, but I wonder how that will affect the voting. People that grew up on the East Coast and that kind of thing. I'm just interested to see how that will be this time around. But this is his first time on the ballot this year.
Yeah, fresh on the ballot from a small market area on an expansion team in the 70s. So didn't get a lot of love for how well he did. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully he stays on the ballot. He's worthy of remaining on the ballot and working his way up for sure.
Yeah, that's here. I didn't realize it was his first year, so it will be interesting to see. It's a great point, too, Scott, that, playing on the West Coast. I'm an East Coast guy, and I knew, but I don't, I think there are probably some people who don't know as much about him because of that factor. So it'll be interesting to see if the voting sort of reflects that. I think as a player, he's a no doubter, but as a card and playing on the West Coast all his career, right? It'll be interesting to see how that affects where that card falls in the voting. Going ahead 1 year to 78 Topps, another Cowboys legend, Tony Dorsett, obviously running back. And, even though I was a Steelers guy, I kind of liked Tony. My father, don't ask me how, he's a New York City guy too. I think it was Roger Staubach. My dad was a Cowboys fan. And so, if the Cowboys game was on, my dad would be watching it. So, which they were on a lot, unfortunately. So, sorry, Cowboys fans. So I got to see Tony Dorsett play, and he's probably one of my favorite non-Steeler guys. Don't ask me why. I just kind of like Tony Dorsett. Is this his first time on the ballot, or I thought it was? So again, I'm curious to see, the Cowboy legend, how much of that plays into where this card winds up. But I'll stop talking and let you guys here, give your thoughts.
Yeah, Cowboy legend, but his fanfare across the hobby isn't what you would think it would be. He came on the back end of all those those 70s teams for the Cowboys, and then finished up his career with the Broncos. Still put some numbers up, but not a whole lot going on there. Well known for the 99-yard touchdown run and his accolades at Pitt even before there, but just not a strong year for the Cards itself in 78, and just he doesn't get the popularity you would think, especially if you got a star back on your team and some other stars. He's splitting votes there, right?
Yeah, I think and I think that Dorsett did have a really good college career, so that kind of helps out with his pro cards. It'll be interesting to see, I think, if there's any kind of like 70s bias from like collectors. There tends to be a lot of collectors in general, I feel like, that grew up in the 70s for cards. So I'm kind of wondering if that has any effect at all on his popularity. Whereas I might not vote for this card to be in the top 5. I'm kind of curious to see how well he does.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point for me and Scott as we work to build the ballots and stuff like that. We are aware that we have some biases, and we're aware we have blind spots, and we try to push each other's buttons to figure out what those are, what might we be overlooking. And so that's kind of, some of these 70s cards was an opportunity to like, maybe, our eye isn't drawn to these as fast, but we may be missing something. So we take the opportunity with the ballot to insert a couple of those to make sure that the other sides of the fan bases with, positive biases towards these things get their opportunity to vote for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that shows, Bart, that you guys care about the process and the integrity of the process, right? And, if I did it, it'd probably be 45 Steeler cards on the list. I kid. I don't think I could. At this point, I don't think I could come up.
Franco Harris, Rocky Flyer.
You'd have a Heinz Ward somehow sneaking in
Heinz
there.
Ward,
Probably shouldn't, in all honesty, comparison to some of the iconic cards on this list. All right, guys. The next, I kind of grouped the next 3 cards together. We have one from 79 tops and 2 from 82 tops. Let me get the graphic up here. You see the 79 tops, Earl Campbell, very familiar with him, being a Steeler fan, and he used to kill us and be a reason for some of the yells that we did take back in the day. And the 82 top set, which again, 2 iconic cards here in Ronnie Lott and LT. And you don't have to be a Giants fan to realize, the greatness of all 3 of these guys. So I was going to say Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor kind of changed the linebacking position again when he came along, as many others did when they came along, but kind of brought it into the sort of modern day, similar to what we know now. Ronnie Lott, the dude's getting his finger cut off and staying in the game. And Earl Campbell is another one of those running backs that I don't think, fought through some injuries, but also his career cut short due to injuries. So I don't think he gets enough credit. And all 3 of these cards are iconic. And again, they don't have, this isn't, I'll let you guys speak to this. This isn't about the necessarily monetary value, right? I'm sure that's a factor. I'm sure it's a factor in how some people might be voting. But again, you're voting on the card and the player depicted on the card. So you can pick up these cards fairly reasonable, even in decent grade shape. But that's not what the voting should be. At least in my mind, that's not what the voting should be about. These 3 cards, anytime, if I buy a collection and I'm going through it and I see these cards, I get kind of excited. I might not be fans of these teams, but these are just legends of the game and iconic cards in their own right. Value thrown out, right? And so I'll shut up and let you guys kind of weigh in here on these three candidates.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. They're all easily attainable, and any good football collector probably has all three of these in the collection for sure, or working towards it. Earl Campbell, first year on the ballot here, so another one of those 70s cards we put into the mix to make sure that they got some love. The 82s, big fan of those myself. Obviously, I'm a Niners guy, so Ronnie Lott, and I love the color pop on that card. I think Lawrence Taylor should get more votes than the Ronnie Lott. They'll probably be close because depending on what you're looking for on your defense, you're picking one of them. But I think from what they mean to the game, Lawrence Taylor should be doing well. Not the greatest pose on a card per se, but great cards and great players. So if he's not in, he's should be getting pretty close in the next ballot or two.
Yeah, Ray, do we have any idea how LT finished in his?
Yep. LT last year finished in 22nd place.
Okay. Maybe not this year then, but he's getting there.
Yeah, maybe not this year, but I think it's a really important card in the hobby. I mean, you could argue he's the best defensive player to play the game. So, to me, that would seem a pretty important card to have, his rookie card. That 82 top set is just a great set, too. I mean, you got, in addition to these two, you got the Anthony Munoz, one of the best offensive linemen of all time, also coming out of this set. So, and with Lott and Taylor here, you see another couple of two great defensive players that were off that are able to be voted for. So, yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens with these guys.
Yep.
All right, guys. Going on. I think I have a slide for this. Let me see if this is. Nope, wrong one. Right here. I kind of put these guys together. The 84 year candidates. You got the tops, John Elway, and then you have the USFL, Reggie White. Transparency. I know I voted for one of these cards. I know I voted for Reggie White. I think this is just a great card, prior to his entrance into the NFL. And again, I'm not saying this because, Scott's on the screen. This is another guy that changed how we looked at defense and got a very hefty contract out of his abilities to then take his talents to Philadelphia. Elway, I'm curious, Ray. This is not the first time where it finished. I mean, this guy has 2 rings.
He finished very well last year. He finished 14th.
Yeah. He's going to be right in there this year. If he doesn't make it, he's going to be the cut line itself. We knew that him and Marino were competing hard, and Marino got in. So Elway should be real close. I agree with you on the Minister of Defense. He doesn't quite get the love on this card that he should on the votes. But me and Scott are both defensive guys, and so love this card, love this player, and it should be deserving very quickly for sure.
Yeah. What a great that we talked about Marino obviously making it in previously, and now the Elway is left. We talked about that, but that Reggie White card is just a unique card. It's got the red, white, and blue USFL. It's got the Memphis Showboats kind of big logo there. I just like everything about that card. It's just a great portrait view. Yeah. So not only was Reggie a good player, but this is a really great card, I think.
Yeah. You don't see them. They're not prevalent. I don't want to say they're scarce, but again, you're going to see more 84 tops than more 84 USFL. Everyone knows that 84 top set, super condition sensitive. They come out of the packs, super off center. If you find any 84 stars that are pretty centered and they're reasonably priced, you better buy them because you don't see them often enough. I'm a little surprised. I know Marino is very popular. Marino, that card should be in the Football Card Hall of Fame. I'm surprised. I would have put the Elway ahead of the Marino based on, championship rings, right? Lombardi trophy. And that's not Marino's fault. Some of that, he didn't have the cast, supporting cast that maybe Elway did. But I think I would want both of those cards in for sure. But I think based on the Super Bowls, I would have probably voted Elway. And I probably did vote Elway first in the past. Kind of thoughts there real quick. Marino being in and Elway still on the outside trying to scratch and claw his way in.
I just think for the majority of their careers, it was Marino as the guy.
Yeah.
Elway got the last say, absolutely. Not just finishing his career, but then kind of in his post-playing days as well. So he got to maintain a little bit more presence other than isotoner gloves. And so, yeah, he's working his way back up and getting closer. But in that time frame, it was the gunslinger Marino with the giant arm, right?
Yeah. And do we know how far apart they finished? Ray did
Yeah, kind of far. Elway was 14th, and Reggie was 38th.
But
I mean Marino and Elway.
Oh, sorry.
From last time around.
Yeah, Marino got in on the first year, 23. So the last year.
That's crazy.
I'm looking at the all the players that have made it, and actually 22 was the first year. Marino got in 23 was last year, so this is right. Yeah, so he got in on the second ballot, but I don't have the difference between Marino and Elway. Hold on a second.
You said Elway was 14th.
14th. So then Marino was
like that.
Yeah.
So
it had to be in the top 10. So
he was Marino was 8th. He got 39.1%, and Elway was 14th, and he got 33. So 6%.
Yeah, one of those. I'm pretty sure I voted for Elway last year. He didn't get in. Marino did, like you said. I believe I voted for Elway again. I don't have it. I know, like I said, 2 or 3 or 4 that I voted for sure. I don't want. I know I talked to you guys before we hit record. I don't want to. I'm not going to give everyone. I don't want it to be like, hey, here's the 10 I voted for. You should vote for those. I will say this though. Vote for Mean Joe Green and Ernie Davis. That's as far. I will go that far. But all right, enough of that. The next card on this list, I'm not going to put it on the screen. The gentleman depicted on this card never scored a touchdown in the NFL, never made a tackle in the NFL. But if you were a kid, you really liked this guy because Christmas morning, you ran downstairs, or if you didn't have stairs, you went out to the tree and opened your presents brought by this next gentleman. So maybe on that alone, you could vote for him. But it's it's an iconic card. I remember 89 Pro Set, the Santa Claus card. People just ripping that product, trying to get that card. I was a very young show dealer. I did my first show at 15. In 1989, I was 17. And that was a card the minute I put out on my table, it didn't last very long. This was a card that just, it's Santa Claus. I mean, what else do you got to say, right? So, again, iconic card. I'm not saying I did or didn't vote for it, but whether it gets in or not, like people who collected either then or even now, we still see Santa Claus cards made today in products. This was one of the forebearers and first one with Pro Set doing it. Thoughts here on Santa. Bad 40 time, albeit.
Yeah, obviously a first entry into the ballot. One of those additional opportunities to educate on some of the breadth that there is out there to collect within the football hobby. And something that's the first one that came out, but gained a lot of popularity in itself and then in subsequent years. And so now you see him not just in football sets, but hockey sets have issued Santa Claus cards, and baseball, Topps opening day, and things like that. So to me, this is kind of the one that started that.
The OG of Santa Claus.
Cool opportunity to showcase that. Similarly niche to like the hologram Vince Lombardi that we had last year, Lombardi Trophy, excuse me, didn't make the cut, and so we'll see where the love is for Santa this year. Hopefully, there's still some holiday spirit in their minds as they're casting votes. But it is a very strong ballot otherwise, and so tough to have a vote remaining for Santa. But we'll see how it goes. I like that it rounded out our ballot pretty nicely.
I agree with what Bart said on that one. Just kind of a fun addition to put in that I'm not sure we expect is going to make the top 5, but maybe it will. Maybe it'll surprise us.
Yeah, maybe Santa himself will will politic and get all the elves jamming the ballot box, and you might have an upset on voting day. So, all right, guys, I put the next two cards. I don't have a screenshot for this, but two iconic two sport players, right? You got the 89 score Deion Sanders and the 89 score supplemental Bo Jackson. Those familiar, both iconic. The Deion, I'm a sucker for big face rookie cards. That checks all those boxes. And the Bo has them with a bat and shoulder pads on. Just a unique card and a very popular one for that reason. And these guys, Bo's still a legend today, and Deion is making a name for himself in the coaching ranks now at Colorado, maybe soon to be in the NFL at some point. And both charismatic guys in different ways, but again, this is a tough field, but these are definitely both worthy cards. I'll let you weigh in.
Yeah. I just think that 89 score set is just an amazing set in general. It's like the just has a lot of star power, being a semi-modern set. And we went with the Deion Sanders and the Bo Jackson in this case. They're both, like you mentioned, Deion relevant today, even in the coaching ranks, and still popular. And then you got Bo Jackson, who was Bart's pick. We kind of, when we're making these lists, we kind of each have a big pool we pick from, and then we kind of match up what we have, who we want to put on the ballot. Then there's usually a few at the end that we're like, okay, which one should we put on? And, the Bo Jackson still obviously hobby relevant today. He just has such a following, even still.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see on these two cards. I'm not sure if they'll make the top 5, but definitely intriguing.
Yeah. Yeah, like Scott said, 89 score is a big one for us. That year is basically a bit of a flashpoint in the football hobby, where that was the first year we started to get multiple mainstream sets, and they started to try different things with how they presented the cards and stuff, and it grew very exponentially over the next 2-3 years there. 89 score, Barry already got in last year, and so what's that next card from 89 score? We kind of waffled whether we thought it might be Troy or Deion, but Deion's definitely taken the popularity a little bit higher lately. And so that was the nod there. And then again, pushing some education. We know that on the baseball side, the 90 score, Bo Jackson, wearing the same things, shoulder pads and the bat behind his shoulders with the white border and everything. But this one is a purple border out of the supplemental set and a vertical card rather than horizontal. Any Bo Jackson collector knows that card for sure, but there's a chance that some of your multi-sport collectors don't know that one as well. So pretty cool opportunity to show that one off, and we'll see how it does.
All right, guys. I'll kind of we'll move along. We'll kind of go through quick. We're getting more modern day, if you will. Nothing wrong with that. Some definitely great candidates. One of my favorite cards, 90 score supplemental, Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith, for me, still being a Steeler fan, I just like the way he sort of played, and he didn't do a lot of trash talking. At one point he was, the record holder. I think he still is. It's hard to. He's just a great player. And while I didn't root for Dallas, I rooted for Emmitt. And again, if you know anything about 90 score in this card, super condition sensitive, black bordered. This is a card, another one as a dealer. I try to pick these up when I can. They're a popular card. A lot of Cowboys collectors, much like I do with Mean Joe Green rookies, a lot of Cowboy collectors are looking for multiple of these or adding to their collection. So, again, this is a strong field as expected, but this card is a strong candidate as well. I probably would venture a guess it may not get in, but I do enjoy this card.
Yeah, great modern card. Just suffers from a lot of good vintage cards. Stealing from it, but once the ballot continues to trip down some of the key vintage, you'll see this one get in for sure. Just the modern cards. This is one of the big boys there. Supplemental, one of those neat sets where it comes in a box. tops traded from baseball or something like that. So a little bit different for the hobby. And so the cardboard side of this card is kind of neat as well.
Yeah. Ray, do we know where Emmett finished last time around?
Yeah. Let's see here. Emmett Smith year wasn't the top 20.
Hopefully like top 25-ish, which would put him 15 down.
29.
Yeah, that's a little surprising to me. Emmett was such a great running back, and he is part of a pretty big fan base in the Dallas Cowboys. So I do think that card will garner steam eventually. But I think it's interesting that the Barry Sanders got in so early, and that card is so far down the list yet.
All right, guys. Next one, 91 Stadium Club, Brett Favre. We know another guy sort of post-career having, some legal issues and not so great, news surrounding him. But you can't argue what he did. I know Scott will attest to that as a Packer fan. I know Mark Gastineau will not be voting for this card, unfortunately. But, I remember this card in 91 again.
Yeah.
I'm 19. I'm a collector. I'm a dealer. People were killing each other to buy this card. And it's, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Packers Hall of Famer. He's an NFL Hall of Famer. And this is his rookie card. And so regardless of all the stuff, all the semantics with Brett Favre, like this is an iconic card. And that's why it made your guys' list. I'll let you guys speak to that.
So when this card came out, I would have been 8 years old. So
Wait, that just make me feel even older.
I was 20. 20 something.
Yeah, this is one that I remember my first real kind of one that I wanted, to be honest with you. Going into the card shop and it being marked up a little bit when Favre started to become popular in the state of Wisconsin. And of course he has the name spelled wrong on there and everything, yep. So that kind of had a little more allure to it. I don't know that his recent issues have helped anything at all. For his popularity, I would say that it's definitely hurt. But Wisconsin, or Packer fans will still remember him pretty fondly, but I don't know that it does him any favors on the ballot.
Yeah, still first ballot Hall of Famer in reality there. And then 91 Stadium Club deserves a tip of the cap too, as a set. That was kind of the as I said, as that flashpoint happened in '89, and you get new products and new things. With 91 Stadium Club's kind of like your first high-end product.
Says premium right on the pack. Premium football.
Instead of 99 cents a pack, you had to pay like $50. That was a big deal. I remember as a kid, man, that's expensive. I'm gonna go get 4 packs of Pro Set instead.
All right, guys.
Or action packed.
Yeah, there's some sleepers in that action packed.
I like the Emmett rookie in the action pack. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Nice card.
Rest in peace. All right, guys. 96. Listen, I'm not a fan of this guy per se, but I'm not here to argue the greatness of 96 Bowman Best Ray Lewis. I'm a Steeler fan, but Ray Lewis was another guy right after Lawrence Taylor. He kind of was the next, big linebacker that moved the football defensive side of playing linebacker to even the next level when we really thought maybe that wasn't going to happen again. And, it's definitely a thorn in the side of the Steelers and things they wanted to do. But you can't argue that whether I like him or not, you can't argue the greatness of Ray Lewis. And again, they still weren't making a ton of defensive player cards. So Ray Lewis is going to have less cards than, crazy as it sounds, Joe Flacco, even though one is a legend and the other's a pretty good quarterback, but I wouldn't necessarily say a legend. So I think, when you're a fan of a defensive player, you have less opportunities to pick cards up because there's just frankly less made. And so this is a card, it's a great shot of them and, definitely worthy of the list. I'm assuming, is this the first year it's on the ballot?
Yeah. I am a big fan of Ray Lewis. I'm a big middle linebacker guy as well. And if you ask me a characteristic of what I would want my middle linebacker to have, I'd be like, well, I want somebody that is willing to stab a guy allegedly. That's a good middle linebacker right there. And so, like you said, he's only got like 5 or 6 rookie cards, so he's not in a whole lot of things. And then Bowman's Best, they did some wordplay in previous years where we had inserts called Bowman's Best out of Stadium Club and Topps things, but they got their own set that year, similar to baseball, and it was a high-end set of its day as well. So Bowman's Best is a nice set, and then a big-time linebacker came out of it.
Exactly. Ray Lewis might have been, the premier defender of the 90s and early 2000s. Yep. So he certainly deserves a place on the ballot, he thought.
Is he probably the closest linebacker to challenge Lawrence Taylor of all time, right?
Yeah, we don't.
I know there's Butkus and Nitschke, but Lewis is
the linebackers, right?
Yeah.
I think they even. I don't know how you guys feel. I think too, like it's hard to compare eras, so he's probably the closest guy to Taylor. As Taylor was kind of winding at that point, his career was over, but he was only recently retired. So I always felt like Ray Lewis was the new version of Lawrence Taylor as he retired and was out of the game. Ray Lewis came along out of Miami and was that guy again. And unfortunately, he had to be in the same division as the Steelers. So I got to watch him wreak havoc twice a year on my favorite team, and that's exactly probably the 2 words that come to mind. He just used to wreak havoc, and you didn't have a lot of time to set up and throw. You better get that ball out, and he'd hit you like you felt it at home when he hit a quarterback or a running back or receiver. You felt that through your TV screen at home, and that's just the greatness of them. All right, 98. SP Authentic, Randy Moss, another guy that as great as he is, and I know he's battling some things now. I think I speak for all of us and wishing him well and healing. Another great, one of the all-time great wide receivers. Again, had the playing after Jerry Rice. It's difficult because that's who you're going to be measured up to. But on his own accord, one of the greatest, and hands second almost to none. I mean, some of the catches he made, are great. I know Scott also got to see him most of the time, twice a year as well. And just a great player. SP Authentic, obviously a limited sort of, in an era where the print runs were starting to ramp up even more. This was a limited print run where the cards were numbered. So this, to me, you got arguably one of the all-time greatest wide receivers on a limited card, and it's his rookie. There's no doubt why this card's on the list.
Yeah, agree. Great set, limited print run there. Don't expect him to do overly well this year, but he should be able to stay on the ballot and work his way up. Got some quarterbacks in the modern era that are going to compete with him, to include that, since you pulled it up there, that 98 be authentic Manning of the same set. I would assume and venture to guess that one gets in first whenever it does happen, as far as 98 SP Authentics, but some modern high end stuff, and quarterbacks always get a little bit more love too, but can't tell the story of football without Randy Moss, and we all love him if you've watched it.
Yeah, now I got to grab it. That's the SP Authentic set there. We're talking about the Moss, but there's the Manning also on the ballot this year. Then you have the playoff contenders 2000 autographed Tom Brady, and then the 2000 SP Authentic Tom Brady rookies. And again, I grouped these 3 together because that's the chronological order as well. Obviously, all 3 of these cards can be pricey. The Brady's even more so, and that that contenders auto, not a lot of people have one. Obviously these are all iconic cards. Speaking specifically, guys, here with the contenders auto, being it's rarely a fairly rare card that not a lot of people are going to have in their collection. Does that hurt its candidacy or actually maybe move it up the list because it makes it even more, because it's not easy to get, it becomes more iconic, almost like, the Honest Wagner in baseball, the T206 or the 52 Tops Magnum. How do you view that?
I think it hurts. To me, it does, and where I place it in my head for sure. Just because the popularity of card is tied to the pursuit of a card, and when a card is just so far beyond a normal person's means. I mean, some of us have pretty big collections, but none of us are willing to cash the whole thing in to get one of these, or to just to, or save up for a couple of years of our hobby budget in order to do it. And so when I'm not even pursuing the card, it just takes away from its popularity in my eyes. But others might think differently. But I compare it to those Gaudy Babe Ruths, because you see them enough, and they're just on the cusp of, like, the price point is crazy, but it's still, oh man, if I did this, I could kind of be close. Then there's a drive there, where you get into 52 Tops mantles and stuff like that, and some of those other, even worse, like the Shoeless Joes. You're like, it's so far beyond it, I'm not even looking at it. It doesn't have the luster in the eye quite, to me, but that's just my thoughts.
And I think that, you're just looking at three of the cards of the premier quarterbacks of the 2000s and 2010s. So obviously they deserve a spot on the ballot. The Brady's are certainly pricey. I mentioned earlier about a bit of a vintage slant to the ballot that we've seen so far the last 2 years. So be interesting to see if the Brady's able to make some headway this year.
The 2000 playoff contenders Brady last year finished 12th.
So it's right there.
Yeah. I was just looking, I was like, wow, he finished really high, that one.
Yeah, and that card took, what we had seen in prices to other levels. And so it has a place in the hobby. Still needs some aesthetics, right? He's in dark ink and a dark card. You can barely see the autos that are on these when you have them.
Yeah.
It's still Brady.
All right, guys. We'll kind of put the last two together. I know they're not the same year. You got the 2001 Topps Chrome, LaDainian Tomlinson, and the 2005 Topps Chrome, Aaron Rodgers. LT, another one of my favorite running backs. I guess I have a thing for running backs who are very good and don't do a lot of trash talk and kind of score a touchdown and flip the ball to the ref and go to the sideline and wait till it's time to go to work again. LT kind of fit that bill. He's had a post-career as an analyst as well. I think having the nickname LT when kind of Lawrence Taylor was there first doesn't help. But when you look at his numbers, he's right there with the great running backs. I don't know if people realize that as much as I do. Aaron Rodgers, quirky guy, and I know Scott knows him probably more than most, and he's got the Packers have a couple of one against my Steelers, by the way. Thank you, Rashard Mendenhall, for fumbling. But Aaron Rodgers is a Packer legend. Love him or hate him, that's not debatable, and that's obviously an iconic card as well. These kind of round out the ballot here with 2001 and 2005. Might be tough again with some of those vintage heavyweights, but these cards are both worthy. Have the field been not as strong, but the field's always going to be strong. I'll let you guys kind of weigh in here as we close out the ballot.
Yeah, my first thought on LT is he might suffer from a little bit of kind of being on that West Coast and playing for the Chargers. That might affect the voting overall, I would think, towards him. But you can't deny he deserves to be there, beating Paul Hornung's record for points in the season and all those touchdowns he scored. And you're seeing a couple of Topps Chrome cards. They kind of really took over that 2000s to 2010 early, I think 2014 or 2015 was its last time we saw it. But those are the main rookie cards for those players. So LT deserves that he's one of the best running backs to do it, I think. And then the Rodgers, love him or hate him, he does have some relevance still. And he is going to go down as one of the best throwers of the football ever. Still holds NFL records for passer rating, efficiency, touchdown to interception ratio. So And that card is very condition sensitive, actually, with centering and chipping and things. So certainly, I think deserves a shot on the ballot.
Yeah, and Rogers was reintroduced into the ballot this year. LT first year on the ballot, but kind of we had Chrome for a couple years, but 01 it kind of took over and became the top set. Those rookies were all refractors, which was pretty cool and a new thing for that. And then numbered out of 999 was a pretty big deal too. So the cardboard of those two players means something as well. But both very significant players. Rogers still has lots of records for his efficiency and his lack of turning the ball over and things like that, and a whole pile of MVPs as well. And then LaDainian Tomlinson does absolutely suffer from playing with the Chargers and not making it far into postseason football year after year. But if you were, a good football fan and switched over to CBS every once in a while and saw those AFC games, he was doing something magical on a regular basis.
Yeah, no doubt, man. 45 cards, individually in their own right, they all could get in. Only 5 will make it. 1 out of 9. So that's the odds. So there's going to be 5 great cards making it. There's going to be 40 great cards not, and have to, give it a shot next year. Ray, at this point, I'll put, again, I'm going to put this in the show notes. So even if you don't, catch it audibly, go to the episode notes and click the link. It'll take you right there. But where can people go to vote on their 5 or their 10 cards that they want to see get in? 5, only 5 will make it, but you can vote on the 10. Where can folks?
They can go to any one of our channels. They can go to Sports Card Hall of Fame Network YouTube channel. That's where where all of the Hall of Fames are at right now, with the baseball card, a football card, eventually basketball and hockey. But yeah, they can go to the Sports Card Hall of Fame Network YouTube channel. The video is up there, and in that video there is the link in the description that has the page to go vote.
All right, so go out there, guys. At the time you're hearing this, you have about 8 days to get your vote in if you haven't voted already, and use the power and that you have, and vote for what cards you want to see make it in here on the third year. That's going to do it for this week's episode. I know we went a little longer than we have been lately with these double episodes, but I wanted to get equal time and get all 45 football card candidates, mentioned. That being said, go out and vote for your favorite 10 football cards. 5 will make it in this year. Will it be your 5? Well, you won't know if you don't vote. If you didn't hear it during the show, I put it in the episode notes, so click on the link, go vote. There's a couple other promo codes as well there for you to save a little money on some products. Also, Ray, Scott, and Bart will be back next week. We're going to talk a little more about how they came up with some of the new rules and the processes, and we're going to chop that up. But I wanted to devote this episode to just the 45 candidates, if you will. Next week we'll talk more about the football card hall and the process and how they go about doing things. So with that being said, we'll have some closing thoughts, and we'll wrap up this week's episode. Go vote for your favorite football cards and see who makes it.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Caleb, at Mr. Caleb on Twitter. And remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Hi, I'm Isaac Albert, a longtime card collector, and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies, and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.